colors into play now. I've got a size 0 round brush, and I'm going to take, let's see, some Payne's Gray, some of this greenish tone that I've got sitting in my palette. I love just mixing colors in with whatever I've got out already. All right, and a little bit of phthalo blue. Okay. And I'm going to start working in some details for the tree bark texture and rendering of these tangled branches. Making use of what the random inky splotchiness has created for me. I'm turning those darker areas into shadowed overhanging bits and the immediate adjacent areas into lighter foreground bits of bark. Let's zoom into that so you can watch me a little bit better. Let's see, moving it in there. Okay, that should give you a good view. I am using a Rosemary & Company Kolinsky Sable brush. I love the really fine points of Kolinsky Sable brushes and the fact that they last forever. Even when you don't have the point anymore, the brushes are still useful and still usable. The thing I've found with very nearly every synthetic brush that I've ever tried is that while they start off good within 1 or 2 paintings, they lose their point in a way quite different from the way genuine hair brushes do. When a synthetic brush loses its point, it's because the hairs kind of curl and bend, and you get this hooked tip. And it makes it very awkward to use in any real detail work at all, ever. Whereas when a real hairbrush loses its tip, it's more a fact of the hairs falling out, I think, eventually over time, or just becoming misaligned, but they're still very much usable. They just become this softer round tip, and they're good for other purposes. So I feel like when you buy a real bristle brush, they pretty much last in some form or another forever for you. While when you get a synthetic one, it's just a matter of time before you're going to have to get a new one. That said, I mean, I do use a lot of synthetics for things like my large flat brushes, because it's not so important for me to keep a point on those. And in fact, I kind of abuse those quite a bit, especially when I do my gold leaf techniques where I really mash them into my page. That would be not the actual 24 karat gold leaf. Those you just kind of feathery brush off the page. But when I'm doing the copper imitation gold leaf, that stuff, I really squish it around to my page because that's what breaks up the pieces and gives me this scattered gold look that I enjoy. So for something like that, there's no point in getting a sable brush. Synthetic works perfectly fine, and in fact, the more it gets splayed out, the more useful I find it. In fact, check out this one. Yeah, see, look at that. All the hairs are completely hooked and splayed in all different directions, but it makes a really good mashing brush. Now, I'm not going to bring this bark texture all the way up into the branches of the tree. I'm keeping it mostly contained in the lower areas and fading upwards a little bit, not a ton, just the hint of that texture extending up into the boughs. So that it has a uniform feel. Well, not uniform, so it has a cohesive feel. That's the word I was looking for. And this darker splotch here was also a result of the ink texturing, but I'm going to use that the same way I used the other areas of darker ink splotchiness to hint at form and structure, turning that chaos into something organic like nature, which this is simulating. Now, the reason I'm not having the bark texture extend all the way up into the top portion of this painting is because I want it to fade into the night sky. So you have this bottom portion, which is the tree and the tree trunk and the roots and everything, and as you move up the painting, what you think of as the positive space of the tree trunk itself turns into the night sky instead. So there's this reversal of your perception of space. I'm going to add some little starry bits up above as well eventually. Maybe not right now at this moment because I want to finish doing this little section. I'm going to take a little bit of more of this green gold color I have here. See there at the very corner? Yeah, there, that green gold. And using it along the edges, but at the same time sort of blending it out. Gives this limbed edge of light look. It's especially nice with a color that pops against the other tones. Sometimes I'll use red or orange on some paintings which are predominantly blue for a little bit of this edge softening. And it gives a little bit of, I don't know, it gives a little bit of a glowy effect. In fact, let's use a little bit more of an orange tone over here as I'm extending upwards, especially since the moon had that initial yellow yellow wash into the base tones of it. If you'll recall way back at the beginning of this piece when I did the moon in that first wash. So having a little bit of orangey yellow in this helps to tie the lower portions of the tree in better with the upper areas. Gives it more cohesiveness.